Welcome to Money 911, the place where we don't just talk about money, we ignite wealth, purpose, and legacy. I'm your host, Kris Miller, and today we're diving into one of the most overlooked yet powerful wealth building tools, your voice. Because when you master your message, you magnetize success. And nobody knows that better than today's guest, the phenomenal Marla Kris. Marla is a founder of Speakers on Fire Academy and the Superior Speakers Club. She's a public speaking coach, life coach, creator of the Art of Presence, helping people like you wow every room, attract more clients, and ignite cash flow. She's the author of No Bull, Create the Richer You, and a feature author in Cracking the Rich Code, endorsed by Tony Robbins. So, if you're ready to speak so people listen, grow your business fast, and unleash the power of your voice to transform your wealth, stay with us. This episode is about to change the way you show up in the world. Marla, it's such an honor to have you here. Thank you so much for joining me.
I'm so excited to be here with you. When we first met, Kris, we just had an instant connection. So I'm just thrilled to be here with you.
It was fabulous. So we were actually at another event, and who wants to come up here? And I was like, I do.
You
And
like jumped out of your seat. You were the only one, and you were waving your hands in the air. I thought, oh, I love this woman.
everybody's like couch potatoes. It's like, take it.
Right.
This is a pro. You need to get up there. And you really dialed me in. The same thing that I've said for 35 years, I've been speaking. I can always grow and always learn. And you really
Yes.
brought me to my heart. And
In
so there are
5 minutes too. It only took me 5 minutes. And you were a great volunteer because everybody was watching, but it was like night and day.
It
Yeah.
was, yeah, it was amazing. And my experience was way different too, because, say the same thing all the time and you kind of lose
Yes.
the connection from the heart. And afterwards I had a couple people come up like, let me have your card.
Oh, fantastic. Oh, that's good to hear too. Yes.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
we have so much to talk about. We'll get started. Might have to do it again. But, a lot of people think about money and numbers, but not in words. And you teach that your voice can literally create a cash flow. How does mastering, your message translate into wealth?
Yes. Well, it's so important to know how to stand out from the crowd because now everybody's a speaker. Well, certainly everybody's a coach. Let's say that. So many people left their, jobs in corporate or left jobs working for someone else. They liked working at home and they became a coach. And so it's about an 800% increase in coaches and consultants just since COVID, really. So it's really important that you have a clear message, a concise message, and that you know how to deliver that message because the delivery is most of it. But yes, it starts with that clear, concise, and compelling message.
You coach people the art of presence, and why presence is really the secret sauce in business and
Yeah.
beyond. And you
Yes.
know, I played around with it when I first started speaking. I'd speak for an hour, I'd speak for 15 minutes, and I really found that, they're not really so much listening to my words. They were feeling, am I honest? Can I trust her? Right. And it was just sort of an instant contact. So the art of presence is, why that really is a secret sauce, right?
It is. And communication is only 7% the words we say. That's it.
Well,
But what do most speakers, or even when you're in a relationship, what do you worry about the most? What you're going to say. And you don't think about how you say it and your energy behind it. And communication, it's 70% that energy, which is, it's your body language, it's your facial expression, especially on Zoom. It is also, though, your confidence, it is your emotional state. And it is this thing we can't even describe in words, which is your energy. And I give people a simple example of that. Because we've all experienced this. You meet somebody, and right away you just feel like, they look good and they sound, they're not saying anything really off, but you just get this feeling that you don't trust them. And there's just something about them and you're not sure what it is. Or on the positive side, you may have met your spouse this way or your best friend. There's just chemistry that happens, we call it. And it's like you meet someone and they may not be the best looking or have the best things to say necessarily, but you're drawn into them immediately and you want more of them. You want to hang out with them. That's their
Right.
energy.
Right. It's magnetic. And that's, you talk a
Yes.
lot about magnetic speaking equals magnetic wealth, right? And people struggle with that. And like what's the first thing I'm going to say when I get up on stage? And there's such an angst for that, beginning spot, right?
Yeah, people, yeah, they struggle with what they're going to say. And actually, how you start your talk is really important. It's extremely important how you start it and how you end it. But in between, it's really the energy, the emotion, the intention of connection and the intention of receiving the audience and not just talking at them, which is what most speakers do. They talk. They don't really, they're not orators. They're not really knowing the whole art of speaking and the art of stagecraft and the art of presence. They're just talking or they're trying to teach. But to know anymore, we have so much information. There's so many ways to learn things. We don't even want a lot of that. What we want is an experience and a feeling and a connection. And that's what really great speakers have to offer their audiences.
You kind of queued it up in my head of because that was decades for me of trying to figure out like how how would you just a little bit share it with everybody, how would you start or end a talk?
Yeah, great question. So I did a video about this recently. So the old school way of starting a talk was to either just thank the person for the host
Right.
or that, thank the audience for coming, which takes the emphasis off you. It's on someone else. So that's, of course we want to be grateful and show gratitude, but it's not always the first thing we want to do when we are the speaker on a stage of some sort. And then the other old school way was to ask a question. And sometimes they'd ask like question after question, and people are raising their hand and they're like, I
Right.
mean, even, yeah. So even an event I went to recently, that was it. And people were like, I'm tired of raising my hand. And the other thing that's a big mistake is a speaker will ask a question and then they'll go on to the rest of their talk. And that makes the audience feel like, did you really want to know the answer to this? Or is this just a technique? And it just doesn't feel good. So if you're going to start with a question, which is not necessarily bad, number one, you want everyone in the audience to be able to say yes to it.
Right.
Maybe you only get 95%, but pretty much everybody should say yes. So
Yeah.
know ahead of time your audience and ask a question that people are going to say yes to so that they buy in, so that they feel like they're part of the group and part of you. And pause for it. It could just take a couple seconds where you pause and allow the audience to really feel like they're answering it and that you care. So that's another thing. Another way is to start with a story. If you have a great story, just dive right into that story. And there's a huge art. There's so many pieces to telling good stories, because you can't just chronologically tell something. And you have to make it, even if it's your personal story, you have to make it about your audience and not about you, even though you are part of the story. But there's all kinds of stories. There's funny stories. There's, stories about a client or about something that you went through, all kinds of stories. It doesn't have to be, your personal trauma story. It could be anything, but it's got to be meaningful for the audience. So that's another good way to start. And then a statistic. And a mistake people make is they use a statistic that's, kind of common that almost everybody's heard before. So if you use a statistic, you want to use one that's not common, that is going to make people go, "Oh, really? Wow, it's that much." Oh, to really grab their attention in the first moments. You can also start with some powerful mic drop statements. And there's, again, a whole art to that. There's so much to this.
Yeah.
And then when you end, you always want to have a call to action, no matter what kind of talk it is. So the call to action, if you're getting paid a lot of money to speak, they might not want you to sell anything, but you can always have a call to action. So I did something that's pretty much like a TED Talk. And so you don't even offer a free offer from that. But your call to action can be just having your audience would have changed something in their life, or look up something, or go out in the world and do something. It doesn't have to be, a product or a service of any kind. But yeah, if you can, and you do have a coaching program or some sort of service that you sell, absolutely, you want to have that towards the end, is that call to action. And then you kind of wrap a nice bow around the call to action at the end by one sentence or two at the most. And it would be something that would either be a tie back to your original statistic or your original story, because that just makes people feel like they have some closure there, or just something that's an emotional, powerful sentence to end and leave them with that feeling.
That's good. That's good. Well, we started talking before, and then I found out that you had a series, the emotional roller coaster series about money, and you have a specific one. What was it called? No Bull, Create the Richer You, about money, right?
Yeah, so my emotional roller coaster book series, is about all kinds of things. So the first one was about empty nesting, the second one was about losing weight, and the third one was about people's relationship with money. And I love that they work in the finance field, Kris, because food, sex, money, those are what people have the most emotional attachment to. It's huge in everybody's life. I don't care what stage of life you're in, or, how successful or not you are. There's lots of emotional attachment to it.
Yep.
So my background is in psychology. And so I wrote these psychology books a while ago, and I'm going to be writing the next book on speaking that should be coming out soon. But it's been a while since I wrote this, but I don't think anything has changed, because it's all about the dysfunction we have around money. And so I started with talking about, there's limiting beliefs, and then there's just faulty beliefs with money. So the faulty ones are, the ones that you probably heard from your parents, or, maybe when you were growing up at some point, you heard things like, money is the root of all evil, or, those kinds of ridiculous statements that, money doesn't grow on trees, or, those kinds of things. And so those are faulty beliefs. They're just faulty. But a lot of people embodied them, even though intellectually they might know they're not true. They embodied them and they're still attached. And then there's the limiting beliefs like, oh, I'm not smart enough, or I need more education, or I'm not good enough, or I'll never make, no one in my family made a lot of money. I won't make a lot of money. Those are limiting beliefs. And a lot of people have those, and there's tons of them. So in the book, it's like a workbook. You go through, realizing where you are financially, and no matter where that is. Like I said, we all have some issues around money. Some people make a lot and don't keep it. And then there's some really dysfunctional things that people do around money. And I list, probably 15 of them in my book. But it's denial. So just not wanting to look at your money. It's triangulation, where you are doing something with your ex or your kids, or you have control. Or there's financial rescue. So are you rescuing someone else financially? Are they rescuing you? There's, so many parts to this that, there's shame and guilt, and oh my goodness, it just goes on and on.
It's unbelievable. Around, because I've done this 3 decades, around the second decade, I realized, you know what? I'm talking more to people about their mindset around the money than actually filling out the application. And, we've made over 6,000 living trusts. Nobody's the same. And
Yeah,
everybody's got a drama. I mean, everybody, including myself, everybody's had their drama. We're here on
sure.
schoolroom earth. But that to be able to get through the fear, and because there's so much fear inside of it, to be
Yes.
empowered around it. And
Yes.
so, that's what I help people with. But honestly, the facts are, like you just said, in my profession, people, this is the last thing that people want to do. They came in to start their retirement plan in my office at 50, 60, and 70. What? Why? That was a pattern that I saw. It wasn't that I was so smart, but they're waiting till they're retired to start their plan
Yeah.
for saving and income
Yes,
for
because
life.
they were in denial or
Right?
or they
Or
had all these other beliefs.
right,
So
right.
it affects so many people and it's so important. So I help people make money through speaking. I help people grow their business and make a lot more money through all kinds of speaking. It doesn't have to be on a big stage. It could be one-on-one. It could be online. It could be in a small group or on a panel. But there's so many ways to speak that will help you to grow your business. But you got to keep that money. You got to manage the money well. And that's partly, where you come in and where, maybe I was going to say a psychologist, hopefully not, but, but
Well, I've never lost a dime of anybody's money in any market risk, and I could look everybody in the eyes and actually prove it, show it. But it's
you have an incredible record, Kris. I have to say, I don't know anybody else that's ever said that in my whole life. I mean, that's incredible.
it is
Yes.
it is. Well, I'm in the safe money side of it. I'm not gambling in the stock market, and it's different. It's not, common knowledge, and that's why I'm broadcasting because the big uh that's what everybody knows. You go to school, learn how to make money, get out of school. What do? Go make money and give it to some guy to gamble. And then it's a roulette wheel. You're going to be there or not when you need it, right? And it's a
Yes.
horrible way. That man, when you're a psychologist, that angst, that fear is always in everybody's mind. So even when they're speaking, right, and they're up there or they're professional, whatever, there's like life or death if I don't, sell this thing, whether you're speaking one on one or one to many, you could, I'm not going to, the fear of not having the money. So the fear versus fire, you talk a lot about, because, right? A lot about that.
Yes.
It's a big fear about speaking.
Yes. And so a couple things. First of all, thank you for saying fire because that's my company, Speakers on Fire
Right.
and Speakers on Fire Academy. And I love that. I mean, I know these days has multiple connotations, but for the most part, even the cool kids now, are saying that's fire. That's although, you
Right.
say if one of us says something, then the next week it's no longer cool. But but it is a thing. It is a thing. And I love that. And I love to get people fired up about what they do because the more passionate you are, and that doesn't have to be with wild, crazy energy, but you have to feel that passion. So you communicate that fire, that passion to your audience. So that is really, really important. But the other thing you said that's really important is, if you come from a place where you're afraid you're not going to get the sale or you're afraid to offer your money because maybe you don't feel confident in what you do, even a little bit, even a tiny bit of self-doubt is communicated to your audience subconsciously. They will sense that. And it makes a huge difference. And what I see a lot of speakers do is they go out and they do a great talk. They have great, valuable teaching points. They come to the call to action to making the offer, and the energy just kind of sinks. And you can feel it. You can tell the whole audience going,
Right.
oh, okay, something's going to happen here,
Oh,
instead of it being just this smooth, natural transition.
yeah. Yeah. Because there's that difference between, selling and, sharing. And when it's all one thing, and you're one with what, like I'm I'm good at what I do. I know what I'm doing. I am successful. I can prove it. When you're one with what you're saying, it's instead of this just disconnected, look at this, you want to buy it, and then, raise your hand and 5 times. If you raise it 5 times, then you're going to sign the dotted line. But that, and everybody knows the game. They're really just listening to your heart.
Yeah.
You really have the gift of storytelling that sells, and so that people just don't inform, like you say, they transform, right?
Yes, absolutely. That's what it's all about because that's what people crave now. They don't crave the information as much as they crave the transformation. And really good speakers can do that from stage. They move an audience. They move them physically. I mean, that's one thing I teach is, especially in person, but even online, I'll get people to move or take out their arm and do something as opposed to just raise their hand. And it's not just put something in the chat. A lot of speakers go on and on about, the chat, the chat, the chat. That's that's keeping people in their head. It's not getting people to be more kinesthetic in their body. And so I have lots of ways to engage the audience. So that's something that I really enjoy doing. But it's really an art, and like I said, there's a lot of pieces to it. A lot of it is your energy. A lot of it is your content, and then your intention.
Yeah. Well, you have a combination. You have the psychology of influence, and
Yeah.
and which is one place in itself, and then the breaking through the noise, because there's a lot of speakers out there, right? Oh, I'm having my event. What distinguishes you above the noise?
Yeah, that's great because it's true. We said it increased by 800%. That's a lot of percent.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's hard to stand out. And a lot of it is, another thing I really help speakers with is developing their speaker persona, because a lot of speakers, what they do is they want to be seen as confident. They want to be seen as the expert, which, okay, yes, you do. But then they get in that mode and they're kind of stuck there and it's not natural. So they're not themselves. They're not how they are when they're having a conversation with a friend. And you want to have a balance of certainly confidence, certainly some authority, certainly some directive and expertise. But then you also have to connect to people on a human level, and they have to feel like they're just having a conversation with you, like we're having a conversation here. It's not, just, hopefully I'm giving you for everyone listening out there, I'm giving you some value in my words, but it's just feels like we're just talking about it as
Right.
opposed to I'm trying to teach something.
Right.
Yeah, it's a different
It's
feel.
it's a totally different feel. And that's what, don't you think that's what breaks through the noise? I mean, that, people want to feel that they're in a community and you're talking to me instead of, do it this way, or I'm the pro and you're the dud or something.
Yeah, I mean, it's a combination of things. So obviously we talked a lot about it's the energy. It's, connecting and being conversational. I was saying how, some people they take on a whole different persona and they're not themselves and they're kind of stiff, like even their body movement on their stage. Someone asked me the other day, I don't know what to do with my body. I don't want to just stand there, but I don't want to pace either. What's in between? Well, there's a lot of ways. I talk about body congruence. So your movement needs to be congruent with your words. It
Yeah.
builds trust, it makes sense, and it's just easier, and it's more natural than if you try and do a lot of, people, some, they do a lot of this kind of thing, and it's just not natural, you know, or to constantly be moving back and forth on stage,
Oh,
also if you're on a stage. But in Zoom, a lot of people are just a talking head, so you never see their hands.
right.
You know, they're just like this, like their body is detached or something. It's just not even moving. So that's not good either. So yeah, there's a lot of pieces to how to stand out. But then if one of the things I do sometimes when I'm doing a master class or I'm doing my own talk, I will use OBS Studio, for example, and use music, and I have things moving across the screen. It almost looks like I'm in my own studio as opposed to I'm just sitting here talking in my study. So I use technology to create interest.
Oh,
And it's so easy to do. I mean, it's a little hard. There's a little bit of a learning curve with something like OBS, and there's other programs you can use, but this it's free, open source, and there's so much you can do with it.
oh,
And
wow.
then if you're on a live stage, then there's, music and lights and, all kinds of extra, stagecraft
Yeah,
that you can do to, there's slides,
yeah,
but there is death by PowerPoint. That's a real thing. And most people use slides wrong. They use slides and they use it to help them remember their talk. So they have a lot of words on there.
yeah,
And the pictures are just mediocre. They're just not great. And that's what I see mostly. And that just ruins a talk. You don't want to have hardly any words, if any, on the slide because people don't know what to pay attention to and then they just lose it.
right.
So the best way to do slides, if you're going to use them, you have some video, have some sound, mix it up.
Mm.
Don't have the slide up there too long. Have very few words, but have emotional images.
Wow,
And
that's good. Yeah,
yeah, and the emotion, again, doesn't have to be a sad emotion. It can be just anything that makes people feel something. It could make them feel, where they are in their life. It could make them feel joy. It could make them feel, there's a lot of feelings.
yeah,
So, when I talk about feeling something, a lot of speakers go to, oh, does that mean I have to do my trauma thing or I have to make people feel really bad? No, it depends on your subject. So at times yeah, you might have people feel their pain and then bring them to hope and joy,
yeah,
but you don't even have to. It depends on your message.
right.
But
Well,
don't get slides wrong because that just ruins it. Yeah.
you just brought something to mind. This is a personal question, actually.
Okay.
Well, I'm about to present. Maybe there's 300 to 500 people at the Women's Wealth Symposium in Dallas on March 8th. And so I got a new slide deck, and it's totally different than I have before. It's just what you said. I have a genius friend that puts it together. He used to work for the Academy Awards, very high level, but a few words. But it's time. So you got 20 minutes, and you got it only. So it's more. I can be more spontaneous because there's not all these words and stuff. But you only get 2 minutes on that slide, 4 minutes on that slide. How would one, if you have only so much time to speak and a dozen slides or something, how do you keep track of the timing, instead of looking at the clock? And that's been something that's been glitching in my head because I've never done a presentation. I've been speaking 3 decades, but I've never done it that way before. Just curious.
Yeah. So the ideal time, this might surprise some people. The ideal amount of time you show a slide is only 45 seconds.
Hmm,
So
okay.
you need a lot of slides if you're going to use them to do 45 seconds. But that's ideal. Now, could you do a minute? Sure. But 4 minutes, I would even, have a blank slide or turn it off while you're speaking because it feels like it stops the momentum. It's just too long for
Yeah.
something to be up there. So, yes.
Oh,
Um, Yeah, so that's the way to quickly fix it is just, you can have the audio visual people, turn the slide off or have a blank slide so that no one's focusing on that. They're just focusing on you. And most of the time you want them to just focus on you. But yeah, 45 seconds.
well, it's too late now. They're already in. So I'm going to have to go with just be so, brilliant that
Yeah, for
watch.
next, and then like I said, use a lot of different things. You use multimedia, use different things in there, use a variety of types of slides. The other mistake a lot of people make is they use a PowerPoint, and they're all the slides are designed the same. They just have different words and maybe a little different stock photo or something. And that's, hopefully no one's doing that anymore, but I know some people are. So we definitely don't want to do that. It's old school.
Wow, you could have a whole division just for creating the best presentation, right?
I help people
You.
with every aspect of speaking, every aspect. It's the marketing, it's the monetization, it's selling from stage, it's how to be good on social media, it's how to use technology,
Yeah.
it's how to storytell, it's how to, really capture attention and stand out. I mean, you heard me speak, so I mentioned a few things like, have a signature move, have a signature sound, there's a lot of things you can do to create interest
Yeah.
and use your creativity.
Right. I'm
Yeah.
going to start singing more.
You know what? That works. That works.
But, and what I really, one of the things that I really enjoy that you say is because it's, in my song is legacy speaking and, using your voice not just for profit, but for purpose.
Yeah.
And so how would you suggest for speakers to create a message that has a lasting legacy?
Yes. So, I mean, not everybody wants that, but for those that do, and I applaud you for doing that, is make sure it's what you're speaking about is universal, that it's going to hit a lot of different people in the heart. And I always talk about speaking from the heart and the gut and not just the heart. That's what we take in your full body. But that's for another podcast. But there's so much to that.
Right.
But yeah, so making it universal, making it emotional, making it about the future. So where are people now, and then where do we want to go? And really taking them on leading them on that journey from where they are to where they want to go in an emotional, powerful way by the type of languaging you're using and by, your intention, that people people sense when someone is trying to create a movement versus just having a message.
Mhm.
They sense those people. Part of it is their presence, but part of it is, like I said, so much communication is subconscious or just barely under the conscious, and we're affected by it all the time.
Yeah. Fabulous. It's so fun to talk to you. And I want everybody that's listening to have access to you and so guide them on what you're working on and how to get to you and your coordinates.
Yes, yes. So I have a couple choices, well, several choices for working with me. I do work one-on-one, but as a speaker, it's really beneficial to you as a speaker to practice in front of a group. So unless you have a real time issue or like I work with some executives that maybe just want to do the one-on-one, but for most people, the small group, and I keep it under 10 people that I work with at a time, and we work on all aspects of speaking. And because it's so small, you get that personal attention, and it's like you're getting one-on-one coaching in a group setting. Best of both worlds. And I'm actually starting one March 6th, but they do, of course, I run them quite a bit. And I also have some free master classes. But to have that instant access to me so we can get you started, I have a hot or not speaker eval, and that's where you can bring any part of your talk. It could be your opening, your message, your storytelling, your offer, any part of your talk, or if you don't have a talk yet, we will create one. And when I say a talk, like a minute talk, your main marketing message. So we'll see what's hot, what's not, or we'll help create it and make it sizzling hot. So the way to do that is just go to Marla Press. It's well, the fastest way is go speakwithmarla.com. Super easy. Speakwithmarla.com. And then you can get on my calendar and we will take a look at hot or not.
Perfect. Off the trot. Marla, it's been a joy talking to you. I really appreciate you showing up and sharing, giving us some of those jewels that you have and encourage everybody to connect with you. And we will see you again.
Thank you so much for having me, Kris. This has been so much fun.
It really has. I truly enjoyed it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Boom. Boom! That was not just a conversation. That was a masterclass in unlocking your power and wealth through your voice. Marla, you just set this room on fire. Now, my friends, let me ask you, if the world could only hear one message from you, what would that be? And more importantly, are you saying it loud enough, clear enough, and with enough passion to change lives, including your own? Your words have power. Your message has magnetism. And when you own your voice, you attract wealth, impact, and opportunities you never imagined. So don't let your voice be a whisper. Let it be a roar. Get connected with Marla and start speaking your way to success. And if this episode lit a fire in you, share it with someone who needs this message. I'm Kris Miller, reminding you your voice is your fortune. So speak it, own it, and change the world. Until next time, stay bold, stay brilliant, and keep building your healthy money, happy life. There's so much to learn about healthy money. I hope today's discussion brings you one step closer to securing and protecting your future. So you can get started on the right foot, go to meetwithkrismiller.com and schedule your free financial fitness strategy session. Thank you for listening, and please subscribe to Money 911 so you don't miss our next episode, which includes health, wealth, and peace of mind.